Thank you for joining us here at Lowry Sports Rhetoric. I am your host, Nathan, and this is
Daimon.
and today we're going to continue on with the Cincinnati Bengals through our divisions. We are into the AFC North. Cincinnati Bengals 2021 record is 10-7. They were first in the AFC North, and they lost in the Super Bowl to the Rams, 20-23. That was actually a very entertaining game. I feel like this team kind of outplayed what we thought they were going to do at the end of the year last year.
Yeah, I think going into the season, we definitely. I remember talking to you saying like they could win 6 games. They could be hugely improved from the year before and only win 6 games.
Yeah.
Because of how tough we expected that division to be. We thought Joe Burrow was going to be good and the team would take a leap forward. But the idea that they would win their division and go to the Super Bowl was crazy.
And every game that they played, they scrapped their way through. It was actually very impressive. And I got to be honest with you, from a person who's not, I'm not a Cincinnati fan. You do get caught up in that. It was really fun to watch last year, and it was like that underdog where you're just going like, keep going, keep going.
Well, and I think you feel this way too. Like with the Bills, we kind of root for the Bills because in our childhood days, that was the team that. They went to 4 Super Bowls and lost them all, and you're just like you have a soft spot for that team. I feel the same way about Cincinnati. Like they're a team that over the years of watching football, like they've gotten to a few Super Bowls, they've gotten to a few AFC title games, but they never quite get it done, and there's kind of a soft spot there. And I was a huge fan of Burrow, so definitely a team that's easy for me to root for.
Yeah.
When they're not playing the Bears.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily a believer in Burrow coming out of college with his 1 year playing well, but he definitely, his rookie year showed, hey, I belong in this game. What he did last year was extremely impressive. So, all right, we're going to go on with this. So offensively, they were 13th in yards, 7th in points, 18th ranked in defensive yards allowed, and 17th ranked in defensive points against. So definitely a little stronger there on the offense than the defense.
But both really in the middle of the pack. Like you said, they scrapped. They're a scrappy team.
Yeah. It's almost even more impressive that they got as far as they did with those
well, I think it shows when they needed to have an offensive game, they did it. And when they needed to have a defensive game, that's what they did.
Yeah, they adjusted.
And so they're in the middle of the pack with both, and they can win regardless of style of play, at least last year. So
yeah, you got to love the heart that they displayed. It was really good. So GM was Mike Brown, who is also the owner. Him and Jerry Jones are the only two people in the whole league that control their own GMing and also ownership.
So we call that job security.
Job security, yeah.
Oh, job security.
Job security. You will not fire yourself. I mean, it'd be interesting though.
I'd love to see a press conference where an owner can, like Jerry Jones. Could you imagine Jerry Jones going like, "I've decided, I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it. I'm not dealing with this GM
time to move
anymore.
on because I'm not getting it done."
All right, coach is Zach Taylor. He's been there 3 years. 19, 33-1 is his record, but you can't really blame him. I mean, he definitely stepped into a team that was really stripped and needed to rebuild, which seems like they've kind of addressed that and gone forward with that. So
yeah, and I think with him, he's one of those young offensive guys, kind of in the McVay line. There was a group of those guys that all got hired around the same time after McVay had his run, where it's like, let's just hire the young. Green Bay did it. There were several teams that done it, and he's been one of the more successful ones so far. So you like what he did. You got to like what he's done so far if you're a Bengals fan.
Absolutely.
And I would think that last year's run definitely bought him several years before he's going to have to worry. Like there's got to be an extension coming.
You definitely think so?
I would think.
Yeah. I think he did a good job. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Free agent additions. We start with Alex Kappa. This is the guard from Tampa Bay. Obviously, rebuilding that line, which was probably the biggest glaring weakness that they had. You could obviously see him getting hit a bunch, and they need to address that if they want to keep this young franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and as much as I like Burrow, the one weakness that he has is that frame. He likes to run. He's a good athlete, but he still looks a little thin, and you don't want to see a Sam Bradford type situation come along where it's talented guy. Gets hit a bunch, can't stay healthy. So I think
he did get hit a bunch last year.
Investing in that offensive line. I mean, the kid's tough. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying you can only stand up to those hits so much if you don't have that big frame, and he doesn't yet. I mean, maybe he'll put that on in time, but at the moment, I think protecting him should be utmost. So yeah,
Absolutely. And then how do you say that again? Laurel
Leal.
Leo Collins, right tackle for Dallas again, dressing the offensive line, which
Yeah,
is what they need to do.
And that kid has a ton of upside. Like he had his struggles in Dallas, and I think that there's some off the field stuff maybe that goes on with him. I'm not sure, but I think he wants to maybe even be a left tackle instead of a right tackle. So maybe that's part of it. But he's got a ton of upside. That could be a really good player for them.
Ted Karras is a center for New England. Again, throw it at that offensive line. Smart decisions.
Yeah, so those three right there. I mean, you're bringing in
veterans,
good players, veterans, guys that have been Pro Bowlers, guys that have been on winning teams, Super Bowl champions, and that's an incredible upgrade on your line just with those three.
Sure.
Both in skill, but also in
experience
and doing playoff runs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then they brought in Hayden Hurst, tight end out of Atlanta, as well as Nick Eubanks, tight end out of Detroit. So obviously trying to address that tight end situation.
Yeah. So, I'll just let you do this, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, when we get to free agent losses, to me the biggest loss that they had was C.J. Uzomah, tight end. He went to the Jets.
Yeah, so we talked about this during the Super Bowl. We felt like watching the Super Bowl after the playoff run that they had, he seemed to, he got injured and they seemed to really miss him. Burrow seemed to miss having him as a release valve, as a, last emergency option. So I think they had to make sure they had a good tight end. And to me, I mean, Hurst is possibly an upgrade there. I like the kid. We talked about it when we did the Jetsville. We liked the
young.
kid. Hurst could be good. Hurst could end up being a really good tight end for them. So you might have upgraded that position along with that offensive line.
And I do think that was the biggest thing that they lost. Going forward, we have Darius Phillips, cornerback to Vegas. Fred Johnson, guard, went to Tampa Bay.
You won the guard trade with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, agree with that. Auden Tate, wide receiver to Atlanta.
That's a huge loss.
No, at all.
Well, I mean, for some teams that might be a loss, but
definitely not for them.
I think the Bengals are doing okay at their wide receiver position.
Is it the best in the league? We'll get into that in a second.
In 2 years, it'll be the best in the league for sure, if it's not already.
Wyatt Ray, defensive end from Jacksonville. To Jacksonville. So, yeah, no, I mean, like I said, no huge losses. Uzomah definitely being the biggest one, and as you said, they might have upgraded that position. So, it's great. There was no trades so far at all in the free agency. So now we're going to go ahead and get into their draft. Round 1, number 31 overall, we have safety Daxton Hill out of Michigan. That was a stout defense last year. It was quite a few players in the first round out of Michigan, first and second. And this is definitely a good player. This safety is really good. So
yeah, he's a good athlete. He can play both free safety and strong safety. Versatile for sure. I think even has a skill set he could line up as a nickel corner if you need him to. So yeah, definitely a great addition to the defense to help improve that.
Absolutely. Round 2, number 60, cornerback Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska. Again, building up that secondary. They obviously felt that they needed to be addressed, and they got a couple good players here.
Well, you might want to, if you're in the AFC,
yeah,
and you're looking at the landscape of what might we face in the playoffs, having a lot of people that can play in the secondary might be on your checklist.
Might be a good one.
Might be a good idea.
Some good quarterbacks and some good wide receivers out there. So.
All over the place.
All over the place. Round 3, number 95, we got defensive tackle Zachary Carter out of Florida. Honestly, don't know much about him.
He's a good athlete. Good. He could. What's the guy that got hurt that the Bears tried to sign, but then they voided his contract? I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he was their defensive tackle, and then B.J. Hill was his backup. B.J. Hill stepped up in the playoffs, so now he kind of got promoted to starter. He'll be able to take B.J. Hill's spot as a backup. He's in that mold of that guy that can penetrate. So he'll fill B.J. Hill's role as the backup. Have a nice rotation still going, which always helps to have multiple defensive linemen.
All right, round 4, number 136. We got offensive lineman Cordell Voisin out of North Dakota State. Again, throw another player in there for depth, and hopefully that he turns into something.
Yeah, he's got a big upside too. So as some of these guys
A little
age,
more raw.
Yeah, a little more raw. So they hire, they got a few of those veterans. They're burning those few of those veterans. As they age out, maybe in 3 or 4 years, he'll be ready to kind of step up and because I think he had, if I remember right, during the draft process, he has a lot of physical tools to work with.
All right, round 5, number 166. We've got safety Tyson Anderson. Is it Tyson? Yeah, I think Tycen, if I wrote that right. Out of Toledo, safety out of Toledo. I think that when I was reading about that, he is more of a coverage safety, I think, if I remember correctly.
Probably good special teamers. I'm gonna guess he'll start his career in special teams.
Yeah, out of Toledo. Round 7, number 252, edge Jeffrey Ganter out of Coastal Carolina. Don't know much about him either.
I know Coastal Carolina had a good defense for their league.
Sure.
But that's not the NFL, so
it's not the NFL.
I guess we'll see what he can do.
Okay, when we look at what they have as starters here, the Bengals have obviously Joe Burrow last year, 4,611 yards, 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, played extremely well. That's such
ridiculous numbers for a second year,
especially because he's recovered from a serious injury.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Joe Burrow is good regardless. You saw it in the rookie year. He just improved last year. This is going to be, as long as he can stay healthy, a staple quarterback for years to come. He's got everything that you need.
And a lot of fun to watch.
And I love his personality. One of my favorite things in the world is, we'll get into Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, 81 receptions, 1,455 yards, 13 touchdowns. And I remember before the season started, he had, I think, a couple drops during preseason games. And so the media ran wild with this story that he couldn't catch the ball. And Joe Burrow was just like, dude, stop. This kid, these two together is such a good combination, and it's going to be dangerous for the league for years to come.
Again, a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and the question was, hey, do you go out and get yourself a top lineman, or do you spend that on this wide receiver? And I thought going and getting this wide receiver, maybe not something that I would have done. I probably would have addressed the offensive line, but it was brilliant, and it was such a good move, the way that it turned out. Hindsight's 2020, but man, that was such a good connection. So. We also got Joe Mixon here with 1,205 yards, 13 touchdowns, 42 receptions for 314 yards. I've always said that Joe Mixon was one of the most underrated running backs in the league. I think giving him these other options, these other weapons have kind of made it so that you can't put 8 man in the box like you have been able to do against him. And so therefore he shined a little bit. To me, those are great numbers. Again, I think Joe Mixon is a little bit underrated. So that came out last year. T. Higgins, 74 receptions, 1,091 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And Tyler Boyd, 67 receptions, 828 yards, and 5 touchdowns. The combination of those three, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, those guys are all studs. It's amazing. So,
I mean, yeah, yes, and then if Hayden Hurst does end up being a good tight end.
Yeah, I mean, Hayden Hurst's numbers: 26 receptions, 221 yards. 3 touchdowns, that's not super impressive, but he came from Atlanta and they were not having a very good year last year and competing against who's probably going to be, he's the second tight end because what's his name? Who is that in Atlanta?
Pitts,
thank you, is going to be a stud. I mean, that dude is an amazing athlete.
Yeah, I think
so. This was their second choice.
And yeah, so I mean that's going to be a dynamic offense. Like if Burrow stays healthy and like we said, they adjust the offensive line to make that help to stay. Burrow stays healthy, that's going to be, a dynamic offense, fun to watch.
And all of those guys are young. All those receivers are young.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, that's going to be a top 5 offense in the league, but then you can't even say that because there's so many good offenses in the league. So we're just going to say that's going to be
seems like it could
of several really fun to watch offenses with a good running back and, like you said, a loaded receiving core and one of the better young quarterbacks in the league. So, yeah, one of those must-see TV kind of things. Whenever they're playing a good team, you got to watch that game because it's going to be fun.
All right, and then on defense, you got Sam Hubbard last year, 62 tackles, 7.5 sacks, forced fumble, and 2 fumble returns. Sam Hubbard was pretty impressive too, and I think he missed a little bit of time for injuries, if I remember correctly, or something was at the end of the playoffs or something like that. At any rate, Sam Hubbard played very well last year. B.J. Hill did step up. His stat: 50 tackles, 5.5 sacks. Not eye popping, but he's definitely a solid player.
Yeah, but that was a limited time.
Yeah,
that was
I believe so. Yeah. Trey Henderson, 34 tackles, 14 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. Great numbers. You know what I mean? Logan Wilson, 100 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 4 interceptions. He kind of plays all over the place. I like Logan Wilson. I like the way that he plays. And then, you get secondary needed help. Yeah, secondary is like... we look at it. Eli Apple was supposedly like the best one that was on their team. 49 tackles, 2 interceptions. He did have 10 pass deflects, which is really good.
Yeah.
We have Von Bell, safety, had 8 pass deflects. Chabod Awazi, 14 pass deflects, 2 interceptions. So you got some numbers out there. You got some things to work with. They did have some holes on defense, and I would say that would probably still be my concern going forward a little bit, is that defensively, like you said, there's so many AFC teams that have good wide receivers, good quarterback. Their offense is going to be amazing. So you do kind of worry a little bit about their safety or their secondary play. At least at the moment, it seems like maybe they got some guys going forward, might improve their situation, but at the moment it's got maybe some holes in it.
Yeah, I think that was the one thing in the playoffs that we talked about, Eli Apple being your best secondary. Not that he's terrible, but...
Yeah, no shots at Eli.
No shots at Eli Apple. I definitely don't want Eli Apple's mom coming at us. But, this is... If he's your best corner or your best safety, or best secondary player, you probably don't have one of the better secondaries in the league.
Hopefully
I just think
that they drafted.
That's just being honest. He's probably second or third best player in most secondaries.
That's correct.
So, you got to hope that the guys that they drafted early on will be able to come in and play right away and upgrade that position. Yeah. But even if not, then you're just like you said last year, they proved to be a scrappy team. They do what they have to do to win. And hey, get Joe Burrow the ball in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go and a close game, and I'm happy. I mean, I'd be feeling good if I'm a Bengals fan, because that kid can tote the rock.
Absolutely. And overall thoughts, I would just say that, hey, even if this team takes a step back. I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl. So, when you say, takes a step back, you know what I mean? It's most likely they're going to take a step back unless they make it to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah,
so.
and the Super Bowl hangover thing is legit. Yeah, especially when you kind of are young like that, and maybe you could see that possibly be a thing.
But, yeah, I mean, like you said, going forward, though, this is a team that I think... they said Joe Burrow last year, something about winning their first one, how they were celebrating about winning their first playoff victory, and he was like, I don't even want to celebrate that, because that's not, this is supposed to be what we do. He had no thought other than that's going to become the staple. That's going to be how this is going forward. Again, whether that happens again this year, I think going forward they're building blocks for a team that is going to end up competing time and time again, especially with Joe Burrow under center.
Yeah, and I think so I think the bottom line with the offseason was they improved where they needed to improve the most, which was the line. They improved the secondary, hopefully, with the 2 young guys in the draft. And those are the areas they probably needed the most improvement. They didn't lose anything too vital. And so I think we can kind of sit back and go, okay, every expectation is they will be competitive for a playoff spot. Again, we kind of harp on this throughout these videos. The AFC is no joke. I mean, it's loaded. I don't know that I've ever seen either one of the conferences be this loaded from top to, middle, where it's just so many teams that can compete for a Super Bowl. So I can't even sit here and say for sure that I think the Bengals are going to make the playoffs. I think they're really darn good.
Yeah.
But that's a loaded conference, and I will continue to beat the drum that I don't feel comfortable with any of these teams declaring, well, I guess I kind of did with the Bills. But the rest of them, I think the Bengals are really good.
Yeah.
You know who else could be really good? Baltimore could be really good if they... Well, we'll be talking about that this week. We'll talk about all the other teams in this division this week, because much like last year, I think this is a very tough division.
It does.
And I don't think you can... like if I had to guess, if you put gun to head, I'd probably pick the Bengals to repeat as division champions.
I would as well.
But I'm not going to guarantee it
because
it's a tough conference. It's a tough division. The Super Bowl hangover is real. And, so it can be tough. But I like what they got. If you're a Bengals fan, regardless, I think what you have is you have the guy and the structure to say, we are going to be, like Joe Burrow said himself, this should be the expectation. Not the exception. And over the next 10 years, you will see plenty of playoff runs and plenty of playoff victories. So regardless of what happens this year, whether they get back to the Super Bowl or not, or whether they win the division or not, or even whether they win the playoffs or not, the future is bright in Cincy, and it's been a long time since you can say that.
That's exactly right. All right, well, thank you for joining us here. We're definitely going to have some more going. If you like the content and gotten something out of it, give us a like, give us a subscribe.
Go ahead and comment. Let us know what you thought about our take. If you disagree with us on something, if you'd like us to talk more about another specific thing that we maybe missed, or call us out if we said something stupid or misspelled somebody's name. We're big boys. We can handle it.
Thank you for giving us a watch, and we look forward to seeing you next time.